Hello, everybody. I'm really glad that you can still join us for the final day, day 4 of ArvCon 2021. I hope that you can hear me and that you can see me because we are ready to go with the last event for ArvCon. I'm really excited about this. Um, and I'm really glad that we got to do things. My um, my charity count might be off by some digits, and I'll thank you to correct me if I'm mistaken. But $6,000 for the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation is a really big deal. Thank you so very much for giving of your time and your money and your energy and your attention, because that's really dope. I'm really glad that I could be a part of this thing. Um, so, while I'm still setting things up. Oh, it's 6034. Thank you for letting me know that. I'm going to correct that as we speak. Because that's really rad. 6034 is a big deal. And I hope that it gets even bigger as we continue. Because obviously we're doing this so we can help the brave and bold folks at Damon Runyon combat all forms of cancer, which I think is really important. And I'm really glad that you got to spent your time and your energy here on this Memorial Day in the U.S. Presently, it's actually Indian Arrival Day here in Trinidad and Tobago, so I'm glad to be sharing a holiday with you all. And I'm really glad that we took this day to give back and do some cool work. So, in that vein, I am here with some of my friends of mine, so we can play a really cool game that you can find in this really cool thing here, the Ultimate Micro RPG book. If you can see it, there is a game in here called Pyrewalk. Love is coming again. That is designed by my good friend Soup, who has volunteered to talk us through some rounds of this game, and I think that is going to be a load of fun. So, without further ado, I am actually going to first reveal myself audibly to my friends so they know that I am coming and I am not going to immediately blindside them. And I hope that I didn't interrupt some brilliant conversation they were having about, I don't know, how to defeat aliens or something like that, as I bring us over to this lovely game screen over here. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Well, oh, Howdy.
All of my friends are here, so we can do the thing. As you can see, our screen presently does not have chat, but I will be monitoring chat in Twitch, because I wanted to make space for the really rad character sheets for Soup's game Pyrewalks in the event that we can actually show the movement of certain really neat elements of the game on screen for you to be able to follow while folks roll dice. But as we prepare to actually get into the game, I will ask people to introduce themselves, starting with my players. And I will start with Amr. Can you please tell folks who you are and what do you do?
Hey, I'm Ammourazz. I use they, she pronouns, and I am a person who does too many things. Um, but yeah, I do streaming and game design. You can catch me on this channel as part of Brandon's delightful Sound Clash game, as well as some other places. And yeah, that's it. That's the TLDR.
Nice. Next, Mike.
Hey, everybody. You may have seen me very recently, but if not, I am Michael R. Underwood. I am a author, podcaster, and publishing person at large. My latest novel is Annihilation Aria, which is a found family space opera, an excellent book to read in between, after, or before reading Valerie's books, which are amazing found family space operas, and there's two of them out, which is twice as good. You may know me also as a co-host at Speculate, along with Brandon and Greg, as Ring Dalmore in The Case of the Cindered Seal, or as the GM of Rebel Crown, Splendor, and Shadow. I am very excited to be here because I love mecha. That's me.
And this is why we invited you. Um, and next, Valerie.
Hello, I am Valerie Valdes, author of Chilling Effects, Prime Deceptions, and the forthcoming Fault Tolerance, which excitingly features mecha. finally I got them in the series. And so you should read my books. And then while you're waiting for Fault Tolerance to come out next year, you should read Mike's books, and especially the Genre Nuts, which just has a new thing out. And yeah, we are super hyped to play this game.
Nice. And I'm also super hyped to bring my good friend Soup here, um, a designer whose work I adore terribly. I was thinking about doing a Pyrewalk thing before we even knew that we were going to do it for ArvCon, and I'm really glad to be bringing it to you for ArvCon. So, Soup, please tell us more about yourself and your work.
Hello, my name is Soup. My pronouns are they, them. And I am another person who wears too many hats. I design games. I do freelance like RPG writing. I do a podcast, amongst other things. I play too many video games, that kind of stuff. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/literalsoup. But today I'm here to talk about my game design work, which Brandon likes quite a lot. But to be honest, I sit in a hut in the woods and I like design one game every like millennia. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this game. I'm really excited because it is not super often that I get to see people play my games when we're not like playtesting stuff. And Brandon was one of the primary playtesters for this game, so I'm super excited for this.
If I recall correctly, we literally playtested this in the lobby of Big Bad Con. In between other events, we just sit down in the lobby and have lunch, and all we playtested was the naming conventions of this game. Because one of the things that I love about this game the most is that every individual element of this game is rad in a vacuum. And I want you all to experience exactly how rad this is. And that's why we're going to now begin with our first round, which is Mike and Valerie, who will start with character creation and so forth, and get into some of the beautifully emotive mecha combat that we're about to engage in. So yes.
All right. So I am mostly going to stay out of your way unless you have like a specific question about the rules, like adjudication, because I know that can be a little complicated. There's some wording that's a little unclear that, but the general premise is that we are going to be making our characters, and as a result, sort of also kind of making the world up. So if I recall correctly from our conversations, Val, you have like answered all the questions in the setup phase.
Yeah, I have the questions for the setup phase. I'm prepared, but I would love to discuss it out loud just to make sure that we
Absolutely.
have created a cohesive world that we can play in.
And how about you, Mike?
I have looked over the document some, but I did not get to answer the question. Sorry.
Okay, all right, that's super exciting. So let's go over this now. You're going to want to jot the answers down like somewhere, or just like keep them in mind because they're going to be relevant. So let's go through, and we can kind of interlace this where we can have Val answer one of the questions, and then we can have you answer one of the questions, etc., etc., etc. And we'll just go down the list like that. Sound cool? All right. So the first question is, choose one adjective to describe the last dream you remember.
All right, I will go first then, because yeah, I have this answer already. The last dream I remember, the adjective I chose is vicious.
Vicious.
I unfortunately have very violent dreams, and this particular one involved killing vampires.
So I'm a almost never remembers their dream person.
Right.
So I have to go back several months to a dream that I would describe as anxious.
Okay. All right. The next question is one adjective to describe what you admire about the other player.
I chose thoughtful. I think Mike is a really kind and thoughtful guy.
I'm going to be unmuted. I'm going to say ingenious because Valerie does things in writing that I have to work really hard to do and makes it look easy. I'm sure Valerie is also working hard, but yeah, specifically being able to operate across tonal range from ludicrous to very dramatic.
Very cool, very cool. How about one weapon to symbolize your last failure?
I chose hammer. It was a blunt trauma sort of failure. So
I would go with like a chain sword. So like a chainsaw as a sword.
Sure. One adjective to describe the last promise you made.
I chose solemn. It was a very solemn promise I made to my child, which is important.
Promises to children are indeed important. I just want to say that.
I would say that my last promise was fairly mundane. This was probably something like, I will take the trash out.
All right. One noun to describe what makes you feel validated.
So I chose inspiration because a thing that makes me feel really good is helping other people. I've occasionally been called a story doula in terms of like assisting folks to kind of get through writer's blocks and stuff. And so inspiration.
I'm going to go with community because being a work from home person who is a social monkey, I really only get by because I'm able to like, be active in communities.
One flower or plant that symbolizes your strength.
I picked morning glory. It's something my grandmother always had growing on her fences, and they are pretty resilient flowers. They bloom in a lot of adverse conditions, and they're very viney. They spread out.
This is me very quickly Googling different names for flowers because I don't know flowers especially. What's a flower that like takes a lot of work but is very shiny? Like
What, an orchid?
Yeah,
that's what
good.
I was thinking too, like an orchid. I like that. Okay. And finally, one noun that describes your ideals.
I chose creation. Creativity will go with that one. Yep, creation.
Okay. Ideals. Well, this is Mecca, so we swing big. Let's say justice.
Ah, yeah.
That's always a good one. Okay. And so this is how we generate two important things in this game, which are the name of your mech, which is everyone knows is the most important thing, right? And your finishing move, which is the second most important thing. So we can write this in here in Roll20, or we can just use like the text tool. But the way that you put your mech name together is you put together the answers from your first and your seventh question. So for Val, that would be your mech name is Anxious Creation, which is it's kind of awesome.
Oh, I think mine was vicious. Is it my number one or Mike's
shit.
number one?
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, no, I
That's
wasn't
my
sure.
bad,
I was
that's
like,
my
wait,
bad.
oh, are we mixing and matching?
Yeah,
Because
that would be fun.
That's absolutely my bad. Yeah. Yours is Vicious Creation, which is equally cool. I'll write it in here for you if you don't mind too much. I imagine if you have better handwriting with a mouse, you're free to do this yourself. And then the way you put your finishing move together is you just slam the rest of the words together in order. So your finishing move is Thoughtful Hammer, Solemn Inspiration, Morning Glory, which I'm not even going to attempt to write with the pen tool. We'll just text that in there. Let's make that a little bigger. Hammer.
Yes.
Solemn. just write these all over the place and move them afterwards. Very cool. Very cool mech name and finishing move. I like that a lot. And Mike, yours is, of course, Anxious Justice, which is just... Is that not just the coolest name? And so I will... okay, we have 3 more questions we have to answer. The first one is... So these are world-building questions, right? So what does your faction seek to burn?
I think my faction wants to burn the past.
Oh no, we're too aligned. Hold on, because
okay.
no, it's okay. Well, I put my faction seeks to burn the hate and fear that suppress the human spirit.
Nice. You're free to put that in under A, as a text bit.
Okay. Oh, I think I have to reload. It's glitching on me.
To contrast a little bit more with what Valerie said, I will expand it to the past, all of it.
I like
so
it.
Not like good and the bad.
I love this so much.
The second question is, who was the kindler of your spirit's flame and why?
Should we be picking names for characters here, or should we be keeping it deliberately vague?
That's kind of up to you. I traditionally have kept it like purposefully vague. Like you have mech names, but you don't have character names like by default.
Right.
You can choose one if you want to, obviously, but it's up to you.
Okay. So what I had put was an older mech pilot who believed in our cause.
Nice.
Yeah.
How elaborate and or extra should I be with this answer?
I in my humble opinion, you should aim to be as extra as possible.
Okay. My uncle, dying from wounds suffered at the hands of his sister.
Nice.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And finally, what threatens to extinguish your fire?
Yeah, so this is where the overlap had occurred. So I had put my fire is threatened by dogmatic forces attempting to overturn progress and change. But do I want to revamp that a little based on what you're coming up with here, Mike?
I feel like I already see some of a tension between these factions in terms of what it is to live well, or what the future looks for them in terms of what they do and don't want from the past. So I guess the question here is, what in 3, do we use 3 to round out our sense of the world versus kind of building on what exists in 1? Is there something about how the faction, is it about my faction threatening yours? Is it about some other context that's going on?
Yeah, it could be that we have similar goals but different methods, maybe. That could be a point of rivalry. I feel like we can go with that. Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
So for me, I think what threatens to extinguish your fire, I think battle without end, relentless missions and no downtime. So it's like, cool, you get back and they throw some new crap on your mech and you take a stimulant and then you're back in the field.
All right, so that would be like never-ending conflict or something. Like perpetual conflict.
Yeah.
So now that we have all of those written down, we can get into how to play the game. It's pretty simple. You just roll a die every round. So I will go over sort of all of the little mechanical bits. I don't know how much you've read them, but you don't need to read them too closely because I'm here to adjudicate for you. But so you have 3 tracks here. You can see this on the character sheet, which is a D8 track, a D6 track, and a D4 track. These represent your kind of like your health, right? But they are your mech, that's the D8, your armored self, so like your squishy human body but wearing armor, is the D6, and then the D4 is your squishy human body made of flesh. And essentially you're just going to be rolling every round, and those get the results get judged based on like the outcome, you know, the outcome tracker or whatever it is. And there's some other stuff that happens, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But essentially, there's 3 different kinds of roll results. There are successes, there are failures, and there are hesitations. A failure is when you roll this number. It defaults to 1, but it's the number that's represented by this red box. And a success is when you roll the number on this green box, and then hesitation is anything in between. And overplay, these trackers will essentially move. When you play this in a physical space, I use 2 different colored paper clips. But yeah, and then when they like start to meet, like then stuff starts to happen. So that's the fun stuff. So I think we might be ready to start playing if that's cool with all of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. How do we start this game again? Okay, you will roll a d8 until one player rolls a higher number. So both of you can roll that.
Oh, well.
Well, okay. So Mike, you rolled the higher number. You get to describe where the first encounter takes place. This is the first time that you two to see each other.
So yeah, I think these pilots first meet in a kind of where a jungle meets a coastline, and I am raiding the facility that Valerie's pilot is protecting, because my faction is in desperate need of like a super fuel at this facility.
Okay, very cool. So you will both roll a d8, and we will see what happens based on that roll.
Mike, stop rolling 8s.
My dice are hot, like my blood.
All right, so that is a success versus hesitation. The player who rolled success advances success by 1 and answers the prompt below. So you gain the upper hand. Describe how. And when we advance the track, what we're doing is we are moving this over to represent. Hang on, zoom in. Won't let me select it. There you go. So that's your new success track. So now whenever you roll a 7 or an 8, you will roll a success. So describe how you get into the engagement, and then how you gain the upper hand.
Yeah, so I think I have, I think my mech has like bladed petal missile cannons, like missile pods. And so it fires blooming shrapnel with brilliant colors, and a classic anime missile barrage,
Right.
like isolates all of the other mechs and lets me come in with a chainsword that cuts a hand up, maybe up to an arm off of vicious creation and kind of seize control of the fight.
All right. And then we just repeat that. We just roll 2d8 again.
Oh.
1d8 per person. Okay.
There we go.
So a 7 and a 2 are it's a tie. So if players both roll success, etc., etc. Otherwise, players both advance success and failure zones by 1. So in this case, both of these tracks get moved closer together. So these are your new success and failure zones.
Oh, wow.
And it's essentially a nothing result, so just roll again. Okay.
Oh, I got an 8 this time.
And an 8. So those are both successes. Success, let's see, if both players roll success, they play with a smaller dice size than this I can. So, okay, that's another one where we just keep moving the tracks closer together. And then we roll again.
Mike.
That's double success, right?
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. Okay, in this case.
So is this representing like a bunch of stalemates, or are
Yeah,
we?
pretty much.
Yeah. This is the Dragon Ball Z portion when we
This
are
is-
just
yeah.
fighting each other. This is the Gundam where
This
it's
is-
like they're fighting back and forth.
This is when they're like reusing the animation loops over and over again. Like you see like a mech get like shoved into like scenery, and then like you see the exact same scene again, but they've just flipped it.
Right. And is this like across a number of sorties? So we're just all they have to do is change the background and maybe like flip the cells.
Right, exactly.
These buildings are now pink.
Right, it's a different place, I promise. All right, let's see. Okay. So this is interesting actually. What happens here is so first both of you are going to enter tension, which is what happens when you have no hesitation zone remaining. So let's start with you, Val. You must answer this question, or rather narrate a scene, which is recount the last time you reached your breaking point.
Okay. So vicious creation. After a recent failure to protect a particular supply depot, necessary medications for her people were taken or destroyed, which was worse, honestly, because if they had merely been taken, at least they would have helped someone, but they were partially destroyed. And so she is just deeply hurt by this failure. She is resolved to never let it happen again. And she moreover feels as if she has sort of harmed her mentor, let her mentor down by this. She believed in this cause, and she believed that belief was enough to sustain them in victory, and yet it was not.
Nice. Now, Mike, you have also reached tension,
Mhm.
and a little bit more. So, why don't you recount to us the last time you reached your breaking point?
I think the last time I reached my breaking point was when I was forced to denounce my parents, because this regime in burning down the past has like a really intense rejection and denouncement of like familial ties and like the authority of the past. But I loved my parents and am the person that I have become because of who they made me. And that idea that I can only move forward if I throw away, if like it was the point when that idea of burn the past became really real, and like that weight is something that I carry with me into the fight.
Nice. All right. So what also happens is because you don't have essentially what happens is if these trackers meet and there's nowhere for them to go, then you are forced to phase shift essentially, which means that you move from being in your mech to being, you know, like an armored person. So what happens is your tracks get reset here, and Val, you get to use your mech finishing move, which is your 4, 5, and 6. So on your character sheet here. So you get to shout that in whatever dramatic way you wish to do, and you are free to strike a pose that is written in the rules.
I don't know how dramatic my pose can be, but so yeah, my move, and I feel like she's not a screamer so much as one of those like really intense, like thoughtful hammer, solemn inspiration, morning glory.
Nice. So actually, so your mech finishing move is actually only 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. So just solemn
no, it's
inspiration,
no problem.
morning glory.
Yeah.
There you go.
So each time you phase shift, you gain another word essentially in your finishing move.
Nice.
So there you go. And then let's see. I believe in that case, boy, this did get cut down a lot. So I'm fairly certain that that means that you, Mike, get to choose where the next encounter takes place. So some time has passed since you have suffered defeat at the hands of vicious creation. So where does your next encounter take place?
Yeah, I think
vicious creation is still mech'd, right?
Right.
And you are but an armored humanoid.
Yeah, so I think Vicious Creation is supporting kind of the few remaining mecha in my squadron, protecting a drop zone for infantry backup when these two pilots clash again.
Okay, cool. So in this case, Val, you will be rolling your d8 because that's your mech die, and then Mike, you will be rolling the d6 because that's your armor die.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. So
That's a
that
failure.
is
I rolled a 1.
Failure. Hesitation over failure. The player who rolled failure advances failure by 1. The player who rolled hesitation answers this prompt. Your dance partner makes a mistake. Describe how. So that is for you, Mike.
I'm describing how Vicious makes a mistake.
Yes.
Okay. I think that Vicious focuses on the other mechs, like the other vehicle-sized mechs, and doesn't know what I look like in my personal mech suit. And so I'm able to climb up the back of Vicious Creation and like rip its engines off or something like that.
Oh yeah, give me
like,
that Titanfall action.
Go rodeo some shit.
That's very cool. Very cool. So in that case, that means that Vicious Creation, your mech has been destroyed. So. It is now your turn to set the scene for the next encounter, which can, you know, have some time have passed or can be immediately following, depending on what you think is coolest.
Now I feel like she limps off to lick her wounds, so to speak, and once again, Vicious Creation is feeling that she has let her people down, especially her mentor. And now that she no longer has a mech, what is she even? Who is she? How can she help anyone anymore? But no, she cannot just wallow. She must still work to bring about a better world for her people, and not the kind of world that her enemies want to bring about.
Right, of course.
And so we will meet on the field of battle. And so this field of battle, I feel like she has organized their remaining mech pilots and whoever they have that is armored like her to do a counter strike. And so they are going to be attacking, let's say, a weapons depot. So it's like if her mech is going to be taken from her, then she will ensure that the enemy has no mechs left.
Nice, very cool. So that is when you meet Anxious Justice once more. So yeah, why don't you both roll your armor die?
So it's a 3 for me.
Okay, a 3.
Oh, 1 for me. It's another failure.
Goodness. Okay, so a hesitation versus failure. The player who rolled failure advances failure by 1. And this is one where your dance partner makes a mistake. Describe how.
That's me again.
That's for you, Anxious Justice.
Yep. So I think this is more like a direct clash mistake. And the so Vicious Creation goes for the killing blow. And like, so there's, clash, 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 they pull apart, clash, 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 they pull apart. Vicious Creation goes for the killing blow with the like mech scale version of the finishing blow, but I've seen how it works. And so in the like slightly more expensive animation version, I get the like Spider-Man dodge past the finishing move, and the two, like, our two mech bodies, or our two mech suited bodies, like pass each other, and then Vicious Creation's like body armor like shatters,
Nice.
or some of it shatters if we're not phase shifting right away.
You like rip off a shoulder plate.
Yeah,
Like the helmet just like cracks in half.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Or like the visor cracks, and like maybe we get to see each other for the first time.
Very good, very good. Right, roll again.
Hey.
5 versus a 6 is a success versus hesitation. The player who rolled success advances success by 1. Okay, so that's here. And you gain the upper hand. Describe how.
Okay, so her visor, like her helmet now cracked, but she her fire is enkindled, and she basically goes full berserker. And so Vicious Creation's hammer, it extends, and so now the hammer, like the normal hammer top, has expanded to have 2 sides. The bottom of it erupts in basically a bladed flower, and she proceeds to use it in a way that Anxious Justice has never seen before, and comes after him with a vengeance.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, why don't we roll again? Okay, a 1
You got me on the
versus a
ropes.
6. That is a success versus failure. The player who rolled failure advances failure by 1. So move this track over 1. And the player who rolled success advances success by 1. So move this track over here. And you take advantage of what you know about your dance partner to push them where you want them. Describe what happens. And then you can choose whether to gloat, preach, or grunt. So that is for you, Vicious Creation.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to go with a preach, because again, since we have sort of aligned goals, but without an aligned like perception of how they should be realized, her preach is going to be like, how can you believe that the society you're trying to bring about is better than the one that you're leaving behind? How can you turn away from friend and family and love just because it happened in the past to build a future? How can you build a future on a foundation of destruction?
Nice. So your dance partner may respond with a quip, and then we will move on.
Doesn't matter if I'm right. You're not going to live to see that future.
Very cool. All right, let's roll again. Okay, so a 3 versus a 4 is a tie. Okay, so we move this over.
Is a 4 a success for vicious creation?
Oh, you're yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. So that is success versus hesitation. The player who rolled success advances by 1 and answers the prompt below. You gain the upper hand. Describe how.
So I'm gonna assume that the preaching got to anxious justice just as she had hoped. She doesn't know his story precisely, but she knows many of the stories of his people and his culture. And so she basically gets him at the end of her now bladed hammer. And she's like, who was it that you had to leave behind? Was it your parents? Was it a lover? A child?
Yeah, and I think at that, like, you know, she hits the mark, and so anxious justice is like struggling against the hammer and falters, and so like is kind of even further on the ropes.
Nice. Okay. So when this happens, vicious creation, you have entered tension. So recount what secrets you still keep.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna say that the secret that she still keeps is that her own parents were killed in battle, and so because of that, in her heart of hearts, she has always wondered if the fighting is actually worth it, if maybe peace could have been an option if they had made different choices, if anything, and this is never going to bring her parents back, so what's even the point?
Nice, nice. And then we roll again. Okay, 1. So that is a success over failure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so essentially this just pushes it back here, and this moved here. You take advantage of what you know to push your dance partner where you want them. You can choose to gloat, preach, or grunt. So like you're still kind of on the offensive here.
So yeah, it's like I like kicked him into the air and then knocked him back down with a hammer. And now I'm just playing croquet with his sad limp form. And I basically do a don't worry, you'll be joining them soon.
Ooh. All right. You
Sounds
may
like a
respond with
gloat.
a quip.
I think. Yeah, I think anxious justice responds. You don't know what I've sacrificed to get here. You could never understand.
Let's roll again.
All right, got a 3.
So 3 is success.
Yeah, it's 6. I think that's it. So my hesitation zone's gone now. So right.
So what happens here is you have run out of failure zones, which means your dance partner must phase shift. So you have pushed anxious justice and like just completely stripped them of their like exo armor. So you and I have to apologize. I completely forgot about the finishing move last time we phase shifted, but so this is when you can add the hammer part of your finishing move.
All right, so this time it's hammer, solemn inspiration, morning glory, and then just like poof, boot anxious justice into a building.
Okay. Let's see. So and you're now a squishy flesh person.
Roger.
And I think it means that your track also resets. All right. So, Anxious Justice, it is your turn to set the scene for your next encounter.
Yeah, so I think it's maybe 6 weeks later, and Anxious Justice is in command of an infantry unit, and there's like 100 of us here, and we're down to one mech, a few armored suits, and Anxious Justice just has like a pistol and an old-fashioned looking kind of very like Art Deco sword, and is trying to organize an evacuation of a city that's getting bombed. And so we see them like we see him on top of a building, like shouting and like trying to coordinate people as Vicious Creations forces close in.
Nice. All right. And then we will roll. So that for you, Anxious Justice, is a D4 now. Okay, that is a hesitation over failure. So you advance failure by 1. Your dance partner makes a mistake. Describe how, Vicious Creation.
All right. So Vicious Creation is still armored but mechless. And so she spots her rival across the field. She is essentially like just sweeping infantry out of the way with her hammer, like just, and then sees him, and his back is turned to her, so he's more or less undefended. He's trying to shoot at one of her, compatriots, and she just like rushes him, just bam, right in the back.
All right.
Do we both go off a building?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you roll again? Okay, a 2 versus a 3 is another hesitation over failure. So at this point, your dance partner makes another mistake. Describe how.
So I think Anxious Justice is trying to hit her with the sword, but because she is still armored, it can't penetrate the armor. And so it's just all the blows are basically glancing off. Sometimes she will parry one with a hammer, but most of the time she just kind of like shrugs it off as she's advancing towards him. And then finally, once again, just like knocks him down with a blow.
Anxious Justice, you have entered tension, so recount why you can never forgive your dance partner.
I think I'll never forgive her because, and this is going for big swings, so please veto it, Valerie, if you don't want to. I think that we cut back years to them as students in an intense debate at school, as we see that these factions are factions kind of within a culture, and that this ideological tension is something that they played out and is the reason that that they kind of stopped being friends, and the reason that that Anxious Justice can never forgive Vicious Creation is that that she always got the better of him in debate, and even though he always felt like he had an answer, he just kept missing, and that every time they clashed, they got farther apart.
I love Brandon's facial expressions here.
This is the first time you get to see my facial expressions, as if I'm witnessing you all playing and not GMing a game. So cherish it now.
Yes.
All right. Why don't we roll again? A 1 versus a 2. So that is 2 ties, or that is 2 failures, which is a tie. But if both players, wait, hang on, if both players roll success, otherwise both players. Okay. So this is the point at which Anxious Justice has to phase shift, but has no phase to shift into, and is hereby defeated. So, Vicious Creation, it is time to shout your finishing move, strike a pose, finish your opponent.
All right. So the entire finishing move. So now it's a vertical hold the hammer, thoughtful hammer, solemn inspiration, morning glory. And then now the hammer bursts into like basically a flower of death and shoots a bunch of kind of impact missiles, I guess, that just utterly destroy her opponent, for which she is very sad because they did have history.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see this as like we get the missile audio, but undercut or like maybe like distant or echoing underneath it is like a replay of the debates or like the last time they talked to each other before the war.
Yeah.
And the explosion itself is just like a flower of flame and smoke and light that she like basically has to kind of turn away from because her visor's broken, so she can't even.
Right. This is the point at which like we play the like really sad like ending theme of the anime, like and like it just starts early. It's like this is the end.
Yeah, it's like the acoustic version of the end theme, or like a different arrangement that the audience is familiar with, but then like there's something else here, some other version, or like the instrument that the audience associates with Anxious Justice is just gone from the arrangement.
Love it. I love that. All right. So we will enter the end game now. We will be narrating an epilogue. So if you did not win the last encounter answer, so this is for Anxious Justice, your spirit has been extinguished. How do you carry on?
I think that other members of the faction remember Anxious Justice as somebody who was tireless in trying to protect their people. And so basically taking stims and going back into battle becomes known as doing an Anxious Justice.
Nice. Okay. Well, if you won the second encounter, answer this question. So that's for you, Anxious Justice. You exceeded your Kindler's expectations. Do they still recognize your spirit?
So I think that her mentor would find her and be kind of like, I'm proud of you, but don't lose sight of what we are fighting for. Do not lose yourself to revenge and petty sentiments.
Nice. And if you won the first encounter, answer A. Otherwise, answer B. So this question is for.
I think Mike won the
Vicious
first one,
Creation.
right? Oh, did I win the
No,
first
you
one?
won the
Okay.
first one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Your faction advanced their goals. What did they lose as collateral?
I think that even though they won, I think that their harsh tactics have led to a spirit of rebellion that persists even today, and their attempts to bring about change and progress have been met with instead of a willingness to kind of work together and embrace that forward movement, it has fostered a rebellion of literal burning of bridges, basically.
Also, completely my bad, but the second question was actually supposed to be answered by Anxious Justice. So why don't you tell me? Yeah, you exceeded your Kindlow's expectations. Do they still recognize your spirit?
I think for that we get a cut of Anxious Justice of Anxious Justice's uncle, who has been uploaded as a strategic AI for the faction's forces, and I think what they do is like genericize, or they kind of take the Anxious Justice weapon design, or like something in the armor, and it becomes it's like retiring the jersey, but in
Right.
opposite, where
Yeah.
like that, like the colors or something in the weapon design gets applied to a whole unit, and so there's like an Anxious Justice squadron, but they're all just like armored pilots because the faction's on the back foot.
Okay. And this is one more question for you, Anxious Justice. Your faction sustained heavy losses. What did they manage to salvage?
I think the salvage is the idea that the argument over what to do with the past persists, and so there isn't ideological coherence. So basically the dialectic persists alongside the combat.
Nice. All right, and that's it. That's the game.
Woo! That
Nice.
is
That was so
that's a
epic.
lot all at once.
It was tense. It was like, hey, let's take this 100 episode anime and we're just gonna cut out everything except for the serious fights.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You just played like 26 episodes of like Gundam Wing back to back. How does that feel?
Yeah. I think I love this, and a thing that I'd be interested in seeing is the journaling analog to this, where or the play by post version, where each of these like becomes like a paragraph.
Right. Yeah. God,
Mm-hmm.
taking me back to the roleplay forum days.
Yeah. Like
Oh,
each of
yeah.
these as its own cohesive scene that you literally script out the whole thing and how it goes.
That'd be really
yeah.
cool, actually. Yeah.
It's like the actual play is a version of that, but then is there a version either where you spend more time on the game, or when you each player does journaling alongside it,
Right.
or something like that.
Pyrewalk Deluxe Edition.
Yeah, something almost like this is how you lose the time, where it's like letters back and forth between these rivals, like that kind of thing.
Or like Pyrewalk's Elegy or something.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so many ways to play this that I think are really cool. Yeah, it's basically, and we went into this like totally fresh, right? We had not prepared anything in advance except for the very basic character creation stuff, which I tried to treat as much Mad Lib as possible. But everything else we just kind of leaned into whatever we felt like doing right now. So if you coordinated with the other player in advance, even like you could settle on a particular theme, you could settle on a particular landscape. Like you could, if you wanted to make the choice in advance, you could even RNG it and have it be like totally wild. And that's the fact that this is flexible enough to account for all that seems really cool.
Yeah, and I really like Friends at the Table, and one of the things they do is switch games at different times in a series. I'd love to see what it would be like to use the kind of what happened, like basically the output prompts alongside another mecha game. Like, okay, in this scene, we had this result, this character over this character, and then here's a prompt for framing a scene, like a kind of an aftermath scene to it, or something like that. Like, can this get plugged in alongside something else? And like, in what ways does this let you slow down and zoom in on a moment?
This is really dope. Um,
Yeah.
so Soup, just like a brief kind of question, like what
Sure.
triggered this, um, the inspiration for this game in particular, other than the fact that like everyone in this room right now are huge nerds.
Um, so this it's actually a very funny story about how this game specifically was created. Um, like as you mentioned before, we basically from start to finish, this game was created on the floor of Big Bad Con. Back when we could still have conventions and go outside and stuff, right? And it funnily enough, actually largely started from the character sheet. If you actually look at the character sheet, um, you can see that there, like this dice like sort of tracker system was where this game was born. Because I was like, be really cool to have a character sheet that kind of worked like this, where you can like stack the thing and you can like just move the tracker over, and it like is like this multi-purpose like thing. And I kind of designed the game around that, and how to maneuver that. And also at the time, I think the movie Promare had just come out, so I was like, it was like on the brain.
Mm-hmm. That that
So
that part we can attest because we literally saw Promare at Big Bad Con.
yeah. Well, cause I had seen it like once or twice, and you were like staying at my house for a couple days after Big Bad Con, and you were like, it'd be very hard to see this in my country, and I'm like, we could go just like tonight and see a showing. So we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
really cool. I'm really glad to like share this with folks, like especially everybody here plays RPGs. I wanted Mike and Valerie to experience it first because they already like write very heavily in like the space opera genre, and I really wanted them to have the experience of like, this is me in this world now. How does this feel for me to have this experience? So I'm really glad to share that experience with you all. That was really rad. Um so yeah, without further ado, so I don't like take up too much folks' time because it's already 10 past the next hour. We should probably get into our next game.
Sure thing, sure thing. So let's move over to this one. I have a fresh new set of character sheets here for you.
You made a whole new thing. Thank you.
I did.
Okay, so I already answered all of my questions. Amber, did you already answer any of the questions yet?
I believe so. Let me pull up the roll 20. But I believe I have.
I did everything on paper because that's the kind of person that I am. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't worry. I'm nothing without my notebook. And my $2 pen.
Oh Lord,
Ooh.
what happened to like all of the expensive stationery that I know that you have?
I neglected them and they dried out.
Oh no.
we're not gonna talk about my fountain pens. Listen, this $2 pen absolutely slaps. I'm just gonna say that.
I absolutely believe you. Okay, so
Yep.
Shall we get into it then?
so I have the names of all of my things. I am in the roll 20 now.
I
I'm
will
roll
say,
22.
it has definitely been on my mind to, like when the kind of exclusivity for this game runs off, because it's in the Ultimate Micro RPG collection. When the exclusivity runs off, I kind of want to make like a deluxe edition, so it'd be kind of cool.
I think that would
I mean,
be
that's
kind of
a
rad.
bit of a ways off, but it'd be cool.
Like there are many things that you can do with Pyrewalk. I think you can spin off all of the naming conventions and lore questions into its own kind of um um game agnostic world building rules. Um, you can like add some fiction there or some poetry, which wink wink you are in a room of people who can do that for you if you want. Um, yeah, there are lots of really cool things I think you can do with this game. I'm really interested in seeing, as Mike and Valerie were mentioning, potential journaling aspect to this, where perhaps like some of the big battles are just tableaus from which the characters get to spin off their own like individual stories and stuff like that would be really cool.
All right, well, shall we get into it then?
Yes, of course.
I'm assuming that in this case fill out your own character sheets since we've already gone through it once. But why don't we talk through all the questions and answers?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay, so as always, we will be going through the questionnaire. One adjective to describe the last dream you remember.
The adjective that I chose was bitter
Oh.
because it was one of those dreams that I don't like talking about.
What do you mean?
That's a big mood.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I was lucky this wasn't like yesterday because it would have been like stressed. But
Oh Lord.
today's adjective is wistful.
Ooh, I love
Nice.
that. All right, one adjective to describe what you admire about the other player.
I chose deliberate. I think not only in your game design work and your game design discussion, but in your activist work, Amber, you're very, very thoughtful and very, very like accurate in a way that I try very much to be whenever I try to have conversations about either games or the other things that matter in the world. So I kind of envy that a great deal about you.
Thank you. That is very sweet and also very hysterical when we get to question 7 and realize what my answer for that one was and realize that they're very parallel.
Nice.
My adjective for you. So I went back and forth between two. Initially, I had adaptable because one of the things I admired most about you is just how many things you do and how many things you do well. But I actually went with passionate because I think the thing that helps you do them well, at least to me, is how much of yourself and how much emotional depth you bring to the things you do.
Thank you.
Nice. All right, one weapon to symbolize your last failure.
I chose glaive because it's long and has a blade at the end, and it feels like a very good representation of attempting to deal with things from afar and those things going very badly.
I went with sledgehammer because it tends to be about applying the wrong tool to the wrong situation and
True enough.
breaking things as a result.
All right, one adjective to describe the last promise you made.
Quiet, because the person that I made that promise with, we just have an understanding that makes it very easy for us to like communicate those things. So yeah.
We're going just full anime here. Mine is romantic.
Nice. Love it.
This last promise I made was to my partner.
You know what? That's fair. I make a lot of promises to my partner.
Same.
One to describe what makes you feel validated.
Desire. Self-explanatory.
This is the one that I've been struggling with finding a word for. But I think the closest I've got is affectionate. Acts of affection are the things that make me most validated.
Okay.
Well, if it's a noun,
Yeah,
affection
that
should
that
work.
is complicated. I'm thinking about if I can.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
This is the part where my poetry brain goes, what words are there in other languages? Would agape work in this kind of context, etc.? But I'm going to turn off my poetry brain.
Effective is another that could work.
This is a noun, right?
This
Is a noun.
oh, noun.
Yeah.
Oh, oops, I was looking for an adjective. Well, I was looking for the wrong type of word. That makes it a little easier.
Yeah,
Then
so I
just
guess affection should work.
affection, just affection.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Sure.
I had affection initially, and then I decided I needed an adjective, and I spent so long trying to look for adjectives.
Oh, right. I see. One flower or plant that symbolizes your strength.
I picked Chiconia because it's a plant that grows in Trinidad and Tobago, so I'm going to shout it out just because.
I picked anise actually for similar reasons, just because of how many different uses it has in Egyptian cuisine and culture, from like using it as an incense to using it as a tea to using it as a spice. But most people outside of like Southwest Asia and North Africa don't tend to use anise for a lot of things.
It's true. It's true. And one noun that describes your ideals.
I picked truth.
I picked intent, which is why I said it was amusing the brand and chose deliberate.
Right. Yeah. Totally. All right. I mean, it's up to you which of the which character sheet you want to take, but
All right.
why don't you fill that out? Your mech name is, as always, the answer to the first and the seventh question, and then
I'll
you
take
just
the
fill out
bottom one.
rest number.
Okay. Let me put
My
this
mech
book
name
away.
is. Let me put them side by side. Wistful intent.
Oh, so good.
Right.
This is the part
Mine-
I workshop probably the most, honestly.
Yeah, it works. It works real well. And my
Where's the
finishing-
text thing on this thingy?
It is.
It's under the draw tool.
Uh-huh.
You like hover over it. There's like a text option.
I see.
And my finishing move is passionate sledgehammer. Romantic affection in these. All right.
Alright, I keep forgetting. I don't have a G on my keyboard anymore.
What?
Do you want me to type the word
Yeah, I was
for
gonna
you?
say, do you want us to type it?
Oh no, I'm good. That's what I have the on-screen keyboard for.
Fair enough. World. See, I like what Brandon did with all caps. Now I'm trying to figure out if it's easy to edit text. Yes, it is. Okay, good.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
All right.
I've done the thing.
I am as well.
Nice. All right. So the next three questions. Number one, what does your faction seek to burn?
The answer that I wrote was the softness that destroyed the old world.
That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
I think works very parallel with mine, which is doubt that eats from within.
I see.
Nice. Who was the kindler of your spirit's flame and why?
My mother, an exiled diplomat. The nature of her exile kind of made our relationship with the politics of our world very complex. So, yeah.
Mine is the family I chose and trust to doubt for me.
Nice. All right. And finally, what threatens to extinguish your flame?
The fear that I will never know happiness.
This is the one that I'm still thinking on, and I think I'm gonna go with those who still doubt themselves.
All right. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay.
Do you ever like read back through one of your like works and you're like, there's so many mistakes in this?
Yes, yes. It is a 50-50.
I'm having that experience live right now.
3/5 of this stream are published writers. This is a thing that we cannot avoid.
Yeah, I'm especially impressed by the ones that make it through my edit, a structural edit, a copy edit, and then a page proof.
Yeah.
Just can't catch them all. Just can't
Shout
catch
out to
'em
the
all,
real ones.
right?
It is a
Alright.
50-50 chance I read something I wrote and go, oh hey, this has so many mistakes, or oh wow, this was good actually. 50-50. It is never in
Oh, yeah.
between. It is all...
Mm-hmm.
It's never. This was okay. It's just, hey, this slaps, or oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, without further ado, why don't we get into it? Why don't we roll some d8s to decide who gets to set the first scene?
Right.
All right.
1d8.
Oh,
And you just roll again,
Okay.
and hopefully we don't roll the same number for the rest of eternity.
nope. We're just gonna keep
Be
rolling
really
in sync,
awkward.
Brendan and I. All right. Ah.
All right.
You are first up to describe the first encounter.
Who would that be?
Amr.
Yeah,
Right.
since I rolled high. Okay. Cool. So. I think our first encounter takes place after a battle. It takes place as the smoke settles and we both come to examine what is there.
Okay. Was this a battle between our two factions or between...
I think it was a battle where both our factions were present. Do you think we were clashing directly, or?
I suspect we might have been.
Okay. Then yes, it was. And I think we both fought in it, but did not fight one another.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Well, why don't you both roll your mech dice?
Okay.
It's 1d8.
So
I see.
that's the d8, obviously.
Yep. All right. Okay.
And 2. So that is a tie. So both of you are going to advance your tracks by 1 each. And this obviously is just a stalemate result. Maybe you're just like scoping each other out, right?
Yeah. I think I am here to collect some of the mechs and heirlooms of our faction. And I don't know what are you here for?
I think among our faction there is like a version of a dog tag that is like attached to our mechs, like a special insignia that has like, I don't know, like a serial number that is attached to the user of that mech, etc. And that we collect those in part because those individual pilots want to continue using their own insignia, but also because that's like easy records of what was broken and what needs to be repaired and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in my mech because that's the only way that we get to like essentially tear those off or find those among the wreckage.
Cool.
Let's go for another roll then.
All right.
Okay, versus
And
a
the first.
3. So that is success versus hesitation. The player
Yes.
rolled success, advances success by 1. Bitter Truth. That is one hell of a name. So, you gain the upper hand. Describe how.
Well, I think the obvious way is, um, you don't notice me at all until I've essentially kind of sprung upon you.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing that I do while you still don't see me is that I strike you.
Mm.
Like one good mecha punch across the face.
Yeah. I think like maybe I'd noticed that like you were there collecting, but I'd accepted that like we both just do our respective things and walk away from this now that the battle is over. And I look away, and that gets me completely off guard.
Yeah?
Okay. And then we go again.
All right. Let's do it.
Also, Brandon, when you get the chance, you know the
Oh.
answers on your character sheet.
Yes.
Yes, I should do that, shouldn't I? So that's 6 and 3.
And success for you.
6 and 3. So that is a success for you. Yeah, again, your success track was over 1, and you gain the upper hand. Describe how.
Yeah, I guess wistful intent is still dazed, and I just like keep wailing on them essentially. Just like
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm aiming to be destructive yet, but I am aiming to kind of illustrate to you that, like, why the hell are you here? You're not supposed to be here. I'm just, like, throwing you around, essentially.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think I'm just still completely caught off guard, and yeah, I can't react to this.
All right. Next roll.
Uh-huh.
Let me roll.
I feel like we've been rolling a lot of 3s.
Yeah. I feel like this is it. No.
Okay, all right, there we go.
We got some variants. We got some variants. There's a 2 here. First success.
Okay.
That is a success over failure. Ooh. So Bitter Truth moves success by 1, and Wistful Intent moves failure by 1. You take advantage of what you know about your dance partner to push them where you want them. Describe what happens. You can then choose to gloat, preach, or grunt.
Right, so I guess what happens in this moment is I am like, it doesn't dawn on me until like in the middle of this beatdown that I like finally discover who this is. And I pause for a moment while we're still like standing upright.
Yeah.
There's this like brief pause, like very anime quiet. You can hear cicadas in the background. And then I trip you. And you just collide with the ground, and I'm staring down at you and going, you have no idea what it means to fight for what is right. You're just here because your masters sent you.
Ooh.
So you are free to quip.
Yes.
And
Then I will smile. Just because someone sent me doesn't mean it is not where I want to be. I have no doubt about my place. Do you?
I just kind of like suck my teeth at that statement and continue.
All right.
So let's roll again.
Let's do it. Here it is. I feel it. The 1. Oh, or not.
oh, ah.
The tables have turned.
Okay, so let's see. You failure by 1, and you success by 1. All right. Well, it is now your turn to take advantage of what you know about your dance partner, to push them where you want them.
Perfect.
Describe what
Perfect.
happens, and then choose to gloat, preach, or grind.
So, I think I quip that and take that moment of you like processing that to immediately just boost forward into you while still on the ground. And so I tackle you down, and I think we end up in like our mechs wrestling through this battlefield.
I see.
Okay. You are free to quip back.
I will mostly just scream.
Yep,
It's just
that's
like mostly
appropriate.
just shout in frustration.
Mm-hmm.
And you have now entered Tension, Bitter Truth. So, recount the last time you reached your breaking point. Probably, like, we, like, splice that, like, with the screaming that's happening, right?
Right. Oh my god.
Yeah.
We are right. So we flash back to like an altercation that took place in my mother's home before we got exiled, but like was one of the like great hints to my mother that terrible things were about to happen in this intergalactic government. It is um three like black clad female figures break into our home while we're having dinner and just like start breaking things. Like they destroy old documents, and then when my mother like stops to confront them, they threaten but do not harm her.
Yeah.
And then they just leave. But there is this moment, like the moment that we enter into that vision from is the moment where like I am like play fighting with one of my siblings just before dinner, just before my mom calls us to dinner. And like my sister pushes me against the wall and we're just joking and laughing. But one of the figures when they break into the house see me like I confront them as they go into my mother's bedroom upstairs to destroy things. I go upstairs to confront them, and they throw me down the stairs. And the sight of me collapsing down the stairs is, like interpolated with the image of bitter truth like colliding to the ground.
Nice.
Your next roll.
All right.
So I'm rolling sixes now, right?
No, you're still rolling 8s.
Yeah, those
no
are-
one has shifted yet.
I'm still rolling gates. That's true.
Wow.
Wow.
Welp.
All right, so that is a success over failure, and this is of course where you get to take advantage of what
Yep.
dance partner to push them where you want them, but it's also where Brandon's going to be phase shifting. So
Cool. So
obviously feel free to weave your finishing move in there.
okay, cool. So we're wrestling right in the middle of this battlefield, and I think I get you pinned down, and my mech's face comes real close to yours, and I just stare at wherever your mech's name is like written. Bitter truth. Do you want to hear a bitter truth? You are full of doubt. You fear softness, and yet that worry, that will defeat you. I don't even have to try. And I stand up, like leaving you there, start walking away, then turn around, but just in case. And my fist starts like, I think armor pieces from the like armor on the shoulder of my mech and its arm starts expanding out onto the fist, turning the fist into a sledgehammer. And, or not yet, because not this one. So turning the fist just like bigger. And I smile as it starts launching out towards you. And I yell. No, I don't yell at this point, because you're not worth yelling my move. So I just whisper, romantic, affectionate, Anise. And the fist, as it connects with your mech, spreads out into the shape of a star, Anise, and just drills into your mech.
I love it. I imagine like that the shape of my mech is such that in order for me to not be seriously injured at this point, I literally have to eject from it.
Okay, so you're going to reset to your armor track.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to choose where your next encounter takes place.
I think yeah, I'm definitely going to try to strike at my opponent's home base. I'm going to say that I try to break into one of their like black sites to retrieve like vital intel that will turn the tables of the war in general. But the reason why I insist that I want to do it is because I want a rematch.
Nice. All right. Why don't we
All
roll
right.
then? So now you're rolling d6s and
Yeah.
etc. etc.
And there were failure zones. My failure zone, success zone doesn't shift because I didn't fail shift.
Yeah.
Right?
So yours stay the same.
Cool. Just making sure. That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, we're starting
The
now.
only circumstance in which they change is if you manage to phase shift your dance partner by completing your success track.
Gotcha.
essentially. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. Two of the one is two failures. So you both advance both by one. Yes.
Does this count as success for Brandon since Brandon has the smaller die? Or
No.
Nope.
So it only counts as success if you both roll a success.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Understood.
Otherwise, it still functions as a tie.
Gotcha.
So you both advance both of your zones by one. And wistful intent. Your intention. Recount the last time you reached your breaking point.
Yeah. Perfect. So. So you Brendan, what do you mind setting the scene a little bit more? Like what do you think this tie looks like? Like, because last time the tie was us sizing one another up from a distance, but this time you're coming with a goal. So are we already in clashing?
I don't think we are clashing yet. I think the nature of this tie, if I can be, if I'm allowed to like set a wider scene soup, is that Wistful Intent is on patrol
Okay.
and has missed me entirely.
Okay, perfect.
But I am still, like, I just cleared an entire floor. Like I've been like ducking in corridors and like opening unlocked doors, and I still haven't found anything that I'm supposed to find, and I still have several floors to go.
Okay.
So I can still get caught at any moment. But
Okay.
I've been deliberately at this point avoiding you and trying to like find what I'm
Okay.
looking for.
Okay. Then, as I'm patrolling, I think there is the thing where it overlays the same hallways I'm patrolling with the hallways when I was younger. And I start walking, and there's next to the wistful intent, the flashback keeps like oscillating between wistful intent on patrol and a younger version of me running through these hallways, running and running until they get to a quiet room. Sitting there, and a friend walks up to them to ask what the matter is. And the words are incomprehensible, but their eyes look down, and in their hands is just a note from the person in their faction in charge of assigning mechs, telling them that they could never be good enough. And in wistful intent's eyes, that doubt is reflected. And then it flashes back to the now wistful intent, who has nothing but certainty.
All right.
Okay. So we roll again.
Roll going.
Let's do it. I don't know what to say.
Oh my
I can roll 2
word!
That's all I can roll.
Okay, so that is a success over hesitation. Boop. Move this over. And you gain the upper hand. Describe a how.
Cool.
Well, I guess it means you find me.
Aha!
Yeah. Is this a phase shift also, or not yet?
No.
Cool.
So this just moves the tracks.
Perfect.
The only time you phase shift when the tracks are touching is when they like have like nowhere to go. So like if you tie,
Gotcha.
like butt heads.
Gotcha. Perfect. So, on that then, I think as I'm walking through, I just put my hand against the wall, and there's a cut to the scene of you like scavenging through the floor, right? And suddenly there's just a boom as my mech's hand goes through the floor and grabs you,
Yeah?
pulls you down to my floor. And I don't think I killed you. I think I just like tossed you down onto my floor.
Mm-hmm. At this point, all I do is wince in pain. I imagine that the rubble is such that I still technically cannot see you. I just know that you are there.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's get that next roll going.
All right. 8 or 2. Which are we feeling? Okay. 4.
3 and 4.
Wow, so
It
much
is a
hesitation.
success over hesitation. So you move your success by 1, and you gain the upper hand again.
All right.
Yeah? I mean, I am in tremendous pain.
Yeah.
You're being gripped by a mech hand.
Yeah. Because you're just like in an armor right now, right? Not a full mech anymore. So
Yeah, I'm in an armor. I'm in armor, and I've just collided with the ground at full speed.
I think like there's just another hand that punches through the rubble, and I don't think I make contact this time, but I think like there's a wall of rubble between me and you that you can't see through that I keep punching through and forcing you on the defensive. Because I don't need to see you, and my mech does not particularly care about punching through rubble. So I'm just doing that.
Yeah.
All right. What did I say? What did I tell you?
Okay. All right.
Wow.
I mean, you can describe how you gain the upper hand again. I think
Yeah.
in this situation, it's like, you know.
I think just like at a certain point, the punching through the rubble stops. And then you hear rumbling and rumbling as I start punching the ceiling above where you are and collapse it around you.
Right.
Okay.
Let's get that next roll.
Please, not another 8.
Oh, hey!
Okay,
The one is
wow.
Jeez,
there it is.
jeez.
Perfect. Beautiful.
All right. So 3 versus 1 is a hesitation versus a failure. So you advance failure by 1.
Yep.
So we're back here, and all right. This is for bitter truth. Your dance partner makes a mistake. Describe how.
Right. So I'm going to interpret that the intent of bringing down the ceiling was specifically to trap me there.
Probably.
But I guess there's a point in between all of that punching where you actually expose the rubble in the hallway, which not only allows me an opportunity to like rush through, but now I can see you. And I slip through that before you can even notice that I've actually like gotten out of that, and I just like try to reposition in such a way that you still haven't acknowledged me yet.
Right. Yeah, I think I almost like I break the roof, and if I don't hear anything, I'm gonna start walking away.
Yeah, and in front of you is just like this cloud of like dust and stones. I'm pretty sure your superiors are like, who's making all of that mess? We need this building to live.
Debatable.
This is where our juniors sleep. Wow.
All right. Success versus failure.
Success versus failure. Okay. And yeah, you gain the upper hand again.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. So, I think I do that. And then just like I notice on my screen a blip moving. And I don't think I do anything with that. In fact, I think I'm just gonna gloat. You know, it's cute that you think you can get away like that. But I know where you are. Why don't you just give up now and save us both the pain? Or else the next thing that breaks won't just be a building.
I freeze for a moment. Like abject fear written on my face. And then I just try to keep running.
There's just a loud sigh. All right.
Five and 2, so that's 2 successes. But because bitter truth has a smaller die size, it actually counts as a success versus hesitation.
Okay.
So you advance your success by 1, and then you gain the upper hand. Describe how.
Right. So what I was running towards essentially was not like a place to hide, but an ideal position from which I can potentially strike. So like at that moment I had just frozen. I was like reassessing my options, and then I just repositioned myself to what I know to be the blind spot of mechs of Wistful Intense design, and I just place an explosive charge right by the ankle and dart off just before it goes off.
Beautiful.
Okay, let's get another roll going.
Let's do it.
Let's get it.
I fail again.
I succeed.
All right. So, wistful intent. You have phase shifted bitter truth once more. So, why don't you tell us what happens, and then use your finishing move.
Okay. Uh. Uh. So, you set off this explosive. Where do you think it is that it like detonates? Where's the weak spot on my mech?
It's like a portion of the like thigh area of the mech
Perfect.
just above the ankle.
Perfect. So there's that explosion, and then there's the like shudder of my mech collapsing onto the ground, and then there is a moment of silence, and then the sound of another limb detaching, as the wistful intent detaches its second leg, and then just being a torso with two arms. The arms, in the way they reformed for the finishing move last time, reform onto the torso and make the wistful intent the same shape that blew up your mech last time, but instead of it just being the fist, it is the entire mech. And the star just begins like spinning towards you. And as it gets closer, it just stands up, and bits and pieces of the mech start detaching like bullets launching towards your armor, beginning to shred it.
Okay.
And I'm going to gloat as I do that, and just as you're being bombarded. You know, I must say, finding our weakness, targeting it, more thought than I expected from you, more skill, more precision. But I know my weaknesses, and I have no doubt about my ability to overcome them.
Okay. And I imagine that the force of that blow is enough for like to just like throw me all the way out of this building at this point, because I'm just a human in armor.
Okay. So we will reset both of your tracks here. And bitter truth. Why don't you set the stage for our last? It's not technically our last encounter, but like our encounter between the still mech'd wistful intent and the but a fleshy human.
Yeah.
Truth.
I imagine at this point, like, the war is not over, but we have sustained heavy losses. And at this point, I just obviously have something to prove. So even though I'm not supposed to be on the battlefield, even though, like, this battlefield is surrounded by mechs on both sides, I find, like, a clearing somewhere to the east of the battlefield. I just start screaming. And then I just, like, it's just me in my military uniform with this like very large like staff. It's not like made out of wood or steel, it's made out of pure energy. And like I strike a tree nearby so hard that it falls down, and I shout, "Wistful intent! Come right here and fight me now!"
And there is. Where did you say this was? That you're editing this challenge?
This is like on the side of the like of another like a major battle that is taking place between our factions elsewhere.
Gotcha.
We're just like to the side.
Perfect. Then I think what there is first there is a mech that launches and flying down next to you is the like half of a body of one of your faction's mechs, and then jumping after it is the mech that blew it there. Wistful intent. You have nothing, no armor, no mech, and yet you show up. Are you so eager to prove that you possess the softness that your faction so desperately wants to get rid of? Then come, let's fight.
And I charge.
Those rolls go.
Let's do it. Will I roll another 8? Let's play.
Goodness.
Okay, not
All I
quite.
can do in this,
So-
all I can do in this
Is
battle
it-
is proudly fail, and I look forward to proudly failing.
Yeah, totally. So
Even anime has
uh,
jobbers? Question mark.
Yeah.
I guess so. Your dance partner makes a mistake. Wistful intent. Describe how.
By challenging me.
Yeah, that's.
I imagine like Wistful Intent can literally just flick me away with one finger.
I don't. Yeah, like, I don't think Wistful Intent even needs to do that. I think Wistful Intent just like stomps, and the shockwaves like isn't even trying to hurt you, isn't even trying to do anything, but just trying to show you how much more force the mech has versus your flesh suit, and
Mhm.
just lets the vibrations of the earth run.
Yeah.
Totally.
And it is enough for me to like literally like it brings me to a halt. All I can do is just like deal with the weight of that pressure against the ground.
Okay.
Wow.
Alright, so that is a success over hesitation. You advance your success by 1. You gain the upper hand. Describe how.
There is this moment when I like the shaking of the earth underneath me brings me to my knees. And then I scream and charge again towards Wistful Intent, and I position like the bottom of my staff as like a fulcrum underneath the previously injured leg, and that is enough to bring it toppling down.
Perfect. I think you've entered tension.
Yes, you have entered tension. So recount why you can. Oh, that's funny. I think you might have phase shifted. Okay. Well, why don't we do both of these then? Recount what secrets you still keep and why you can never forgive your dance keeper or dance partner. Sorry.
You're asking me.
Yes, because I think we might have missed your tension last.
I don't
last
think Brandon
time.
ever reached tension.
I think. Oh, that's actually true. Interesting. All right, so I guess in that case, recount why you can never forgive your dance partner. That's the only one we'll have the answer to.
This is going to be hilarious. I think this entire war is like really misplaced. I think that we're not like. I think the thing that I hold specifically against Wistful Intent and a handful of others among your faction, but not like your entire faction, is that we were not enemies. This war, like, we are enemies right now in this conflict because we are allied with people who are enemies. And one of the things that I hold against your faction the most, and amongst you and other people who I like know personally, who are like within the same age range, who grew up in the same space, is that regardless of the circumstances of this conflict, you know that what happened to my mother was unjust, but your faction has never said anything about it. So like, the flashback that we come to in particular is like a series of like Senate meetings among all of the heads of intergalactic space, where handfuls of people start like divesting their attention from my mother's goals towards like totally frivolous goals that like they admit have no real value. Um, and like noticing that that has an effect on my mother and on the work that she wants to do. And then we cut to um, like in the hallway of the academy. um, I see Wistful Intent having a conversation with one of their superiors. And the conversation is about the previous Senate meeting. And I'm overhearing it, but I don't want them to know that I'm there. And like in another room, I just start breaking things. I just like throwing tables out of windows and like setting flags on fire, and then I leave. I probably get like kicked out of school immediately after that too, but yes.
Expelled. Okay.
Cool.
Why don't we keep rolling?
Let's do it.
Okay. So,
Nice and middling. First time in a while.
wow. Nice, cool failure.
So you advance your failure by 1. Wistful Intent. Your partner makes a mistake. Describe how.
Okay. So you topple Wistful Intent by leveraging the weaker leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as you go in to follow up on that, what you don't realize is that after the damage it's sustained, it's been modified to swing around even while down. And so the leg just, while I'm like on my knees, like being toppled over, just does a full 180 and swipes at you.
Okay, with enough force to like send me flying against the earth. Okay, cool.
All right. Let's roll.
If it weren't for the rules of this game, I have already been vaporized.
Listen, everybody knows mech pilots have plot armor.
Wow! Wow!
That's just rude.
Roll
That's
20 is
rude.
conspiring against me.
I don't think I have to tell you. I don't think I have to tell you what happens here.
So
This
Brandon's,
is wild
my
to
full
watch.
dice
Like,
roll,
what?
Brandon's witnessing why no one in my family plays card games with me anymore.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Well, yeah, the floor is yours. You have defeated Bitter Truth, and you can use your finishing move.
Yeah,
The whole shebang.
the whole shebang. Okay, the full 5 words. Okay. So there's just, I think you were right. Like when the kick happens, I think that's when the fight was mostly over. Right.
mm-hmm.
And so I look around and I see that the battle is also dying and that no one is near us. And so the hood of Wistful Intent pops open as I step out of the cockpit and just stride across. And I think it's one of those long scenes where the soundtrack isn't playing, it's just the wind whistling as I walk through the battlefield into the indent in the wall where you've been knocked into. You know, once I thought we could be friends. Once I even respected you. After everything that happened to you, I thought maybe then I could find someone in your faction who lived up to your ideals, who didn't let the softness that destroyed the old world consume them. But look at you. Look at what you're doing here. There is no reason to fight this besides your own personal vendettas, your own personal emotions.
while you're saying that, I'm still like trying to pull my entire body out of the concrete that I've been embedded in.
But I think I know now. You won't ever live up to those ideals. I hope perhaps one day you find some that you will live up to. And I just get up close, help pull you out of the wall, and then pull my fist back. Allow me to give you a privileged view of experience. Passionate sledgehammer. Romantic affection, Anise. And I just clock you across the face.
I imagine that it has like, in some anime there is like this godlike secondary impact that just like flies past the body of the person who's been struck.
Oh yeah.
I imagine that you hit me and there's this large like star pattern that just cascades across the earth behind me. And like there's a few beats while I'm still like in shock that you hit me. Like I don't know if I'm in shock that you hit me or in shock that you took me out of like the hole first. It just collapsed to the ground.
I think I catch you as I do and set you down gently.
Oh Lord.
All right. Let us enter the epilogue then. If you did not win the last encounter, so that is for you, Bitter Truth. Your spirit has been extinguished. How do you carry on?
Like there's a moment, like several days after the fight, I think I'm like absolutely broken. Like I don't think that I can carry on. And then my mother comes to visit me in the hospital. And essentially like we have this conversation about how one, like she essentially tells me one war lost or won doesn't make an entire history. And that there are still things to fight for if we can stay to fight for them. And that's what inspires me as a result to get out of the hospital and go back home.
All right. If you won the second encounter, so that was Wistful Intent, you exceeded your Kindler's expectations. Do they still recognize your spirit?
That is an interesting question. I think... No. I think after that last encounter, the war was done. The battles are over. I think me and my faction have gone separate ways. I think perhaps there are some among them who still recognize me, but after the whole speech I gave to Bitter Truth, I realized that there was some examining of values of my own that I had to do.
All right. And if you won the first encounter, answer this. So that's Useful Intent. Your faction advanced their goals. What did they lose as collateral?
I think what they lost is those willing to talk back to them. And now they are a faction with power and without doubt, and with none willing to critique them.
Wow.
So you've essentially become dictators that when you didn't want to.
Exactly. And I think that's also part of why Wistful Intent might have walked away.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And finally, for you, Bitter Truth, your faction sustained heavy losses. What did they manage to salvage?
I think in this very strange kind of roundabout way, even though we lost the war, a great deal of our like former allies, the allies that we lost in the Senate before the war, finally come back to my mother and like admit their wrongdoing, even kind of confess that it was their uh, underhanded dealings that would have essentially triggered the war in the first place. And now they're willing to come together and see if they can make the right decisions in the way that she wanted. And that leads us into this like other uncertain future where do we need to resolve this again with another war between these two factions, or do we actually use um, soft power in order to resolve the issues of the galaxy? And I think when I think when that conversation actually happens, it's like 3 or 4 men in suits come to my mother's house and like literally bow to her and like are groveling, um, and like me and my mother are literally having tea when it happens, and she looks at me and goes, and like with this kind of like wordless look that says, um, maybe we can fix these problems after all. And then we just both sip our tea right in front of them.
All right, and that's it. That's the game,
The feeling when you lose so hard you win.
right?
I lost
Yeah.
so hard, but my
was
convictions won
intense.
out in the end.
It was a
think that
very
was
it was a
fun.
very extreme example of the game. I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever seen someone just carry a mech all the way through.
I got
It's fun 'cause, like,
trounced.
It started with like Bitter Truth getting the upper hand on me, and then just
Right.
after Bitter Truth lost that first upper hand,
Destroyed.
never got her back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so it's funny and like obviously I won't talk too long about this because we are at 5:14 local time here. But like yeah, it's interesting because like part of the reason that the dice get smaller is because it becomes more volatile, right? So
Mhm.
it can actually be easier to catch up when you're at a smaller die potentially if you're not rolling
Mhm.
ones all the time.
Yeah, when roll 20 is not conspiring against you. But like that smaller die mechanic, that like
Oh.
easier, much more effective way to like suddenly turn the tables in a conflict is actually really cool.
And like people who know me on the internet know that I'm known a little bit as a dice math nerd in TTRPG stuff, and like I love a lot of what has been done here in like the shrinking dice and the way it swaps over and that can like fluctuate the combat, because like that turned Brandon's lead into a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of like my low-key favorite things is how the tension mechanic works, because that means that you can be winning a lot and then suddenly the tides get turned.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to be kind of like a thing that happens. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go.
So yes, thank you so very much, Soup. This was dope. I can speak for all of my players. I think let me say that this was a really really engaging experience. I kind of wanna like patch this into all kinds of other games. So whenever like Scum and Villainy or another sci-fi game enters a possibility for mech combat, we just tell your players, "Hey, we're going to play this other game now for one beat," and then turn back to the game that we were playing the first time, because this is really evocative. Like I like the fact that it focuses on the emotional heights between rival players as opposed to just mech combat for mech combat's sake, which is really cool. So thank you so very much for sharing this with us, Soup. Thank you again to everybody who is presently here. I think there is a last call for a giveaway that is still presently taking place, so that's going to be like 1 or 2 minutes until somebody wins some cool stuff in chat. Because some of the gamers here are really cool. Hey, you're playing for a copy of Planescape Torment. I'm actually quite jealous of you all. So yes, thank you so very much, all of you, for playing. So I will ask each of you to introduce yourselves by telling the good folks in chat who you are, what you do, and where people can find you. Starting with our GM and game designer, Soup. This is your opportunity to plug all of your neat things.
Hi, you can find me all the places at Literal Soup, because I'm literally soup. I design games on itch. Right now, you can get First Contact, which is the first game I ever made, which is about human alien high school anime romance. It's a metaphor, but don't tell people. And you can also find Crossing the Seven Stars, which is a game that I wrote for Valentine's Day a couple years ago, maybe a year ago. I don't remember now. Which is it's actually funny because it's like the opposite of Pyrewalk, where Pyrewalk is like a small like game that's like a focus experience, and then Crossing the Seven Stars is a framework to excuse yourself to play other games. It's about useless lesbians mutually pining over each other for lifetimes. And then, I'm on Twitter and stuff. I stream at twitch.tv/literalsoup. I've been playing Dark Souls 3 again, but co-op this time, and I'll probably start playing like Yakuza Kiwami 2 or something at some point. So there you go. That's my stuff.
Cool. Thank you so very much again for sharing this experience with us. Next, Valerie. Where can people find your work?
You can find me online at Valerie Valdes pretty much everywhere. If you're just listening, that is Valdes with an S, not a Z. And I'm at Valerie Valdes on Twitter, Valerie Valdes author, I think, on Instagram. I don't post a lot there. It's mostly cat pictures. But if you like cat pictures, please find me there. Also, ValerieValdes.com.
Nice. Next, Mike.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael R. Underwood. You can find me on Twitter at Mike R. Underwood, where mostly I signal boost because the world is made of scary and Twitter is bad, but we use it because it's needful in many ways. It's a rough life. I do essays about writing and the business of publishing and some stuff about gaming at patreon.com/Michael R. Underwood. And I co-host Speculate with Brandon and Greg. We're having a great time with two series, The Case of the Cindered Seal that Valerie is a player in and Brandon runs, and Rebel Crown, which IGM and Greg and Brandon both play. And you can find all the Speculate stuff at speculatesf.com. That's me.
Nice. And Amor.
And that leaves me. Hello, I'm Ammourazz. I am a podcaster, streamer, game designer, writer, person who tries to manage all their work-life balance. You can find me on Twitter at Ammourazz, where you can keep up to date about what streams I'm doing, what podcasts and stuff, what new games I'm working on. Right now, the main place you can find me are on Sound Classic Clampdown with our lovely Brandon over here. Every other Sunday, as well as on Super Splash of Color every Saturday morning on the Lark Network channel. We're playing a mass campaign that is getting very tense. So if you want to see more of me doing this nonsense, you can check me out there. And then if you want to keep up with my game design, the biggest thing I'm working on right now is Chimera, which you can check out on itch at play.chimera.games. That's it. That's my plugs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so very much. And check out Chimera whenever you get the chance. It's actually really rad. And as for me, I am Brandon O'Brien. I am a game designer, writer, poet, and other things, hailing from Trinidad and Tobago. You can find me on Twitter at The Rising Tides. My website is brandonobrien.space. I am also one of the co-hosts of Speculate, alongside Michael and Greg, where I am presently GMing the Case of the Cindered Seal, in which Valerie and Mike are players. I also GM Sound Clash Clampdown on this channel every other Sunday. Dates for June TBA, in which Amor is a player. And I am the designer of that Forged in the Dark hack Sound Clash, which is really, really neat. I am also the co-host of the Skiffy and Fanty show, which you can find out more about at skiffyandfanty.com. And that's all of the things that I'm doing, and you can find some of my game stuff at therisingtides.itch.io. So yeah, thank you so very much. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad that I got to give you all some mecha and feelings goodness on this very last session of the games that we had for ArvCon 2021. We raised over $6,000 in 4 days, which is really, really rad. I'm really grateful that you all not only gave of your time and attention to be present for this weekend of streams, but I'm very grateful that you all gave your money to support the brave and bold work that is being done by the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation. It's very important in these like particularly trying times where everybody is aware of their health in one way or another, to try to do the work that is necessary to eradicate some of the things that plague our loved ones. I personally have not. I personally have only experienced some very minor like experiences where some of my loved ones have um, survived and fought with cancer of some form or another, which is very traumatizing for us and for the rest of their loved ones. So I can only speak for like so many of us when I say that it's kind of important that we do the work that is necessary to potentially reach a future where all cancer is eradicated. And I think that the work that Damon Runyon is doing is quite radical in that regard. And I hope that this plays some small part in bringing us to that future. And we thank you all for giving to that point. So, with that being said, I'm pretty sure that Arv would like very much for me to give him back his channel. So I should probably disappear at some point. But thank you so very much, all of you, for being present. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to do more of these things at some point in the future. But until then, I hope that you all enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day in the States, or Indian Arrival Day here in the Caribbean, or whatever else you may be possibly celebrating on this day. Arvin Alaran says stick around for a few minutes, so Greg is definitely going to be back. But for us, we are going to sign off, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye.